Hi, I'm Kimberly, the editor-in-chief of Independent. I've been a vegetarian my entire life, but there is such a thing as a junk food vegetarian. So I've spent the last probably 15 years trying to clean up the way I eat. And one of the things that has held on the longest and the tightest is sugar. So now I'm attempting to cut sugar out of what I eat and reading labels and making a lot of things from scratch because it's almost impossible to find salad dressings and ketchups and marinara sauce, things like that, packaged without sugar. So last week with Leslie, we learned how to make ketchup and marinara sauce. And today I'm tackling the dressings. So dressings can be really deceiving because I have this product here. It happens to be my daughter's favorite. Got it at the commissary. It's vegan, gluten-free, organic, but it contains organic agave nectar. And that used to be the golden child of sweeteners, but it has been found that it contains more fructose than high fructose corn syrup, which can lead to obesity. So even though on the face of it, it looks like a healthy product, it's not. And so that leads me to make dressings from scratch at home. And if you know about cooking and kind of the science behind it, flavor profiles and things like that, with salad dressings, often you're supposed to have something salty, something sweet, something acidic. But I'd like to do without the sweet. So I make my own without any sweeteners. The first we're going to tackle today is a creamy avocado dressing. And it's adapted from Kimberly Schneider. She's a clinical nutritionist, but her original recipe had some honey in it. So I wanted to make it without any added sweeteners at all. Though you could add a teaspoon of honey if you found it to be not to your liking, but try it without first and see what you think. So you start with an avocado. You're gonna put everything in a blender jar. Just open the avocado, and I lucked out. I was afraid this one was going to be a little bit too ripe, but it is absolutely perfect. So I just use a spoon and scoop that out into the blender jar. And that's messy. I'll rinse my hands off. Next is one small clove of garlic, and lots of times people smash the garlic. I'm still in the old habit of just chopping off either end and removing the paper. That ends up being faster for me. Just throw that in the blender jar as is. Now a 1/4 cup of filtered water. So I have a filter right on my tap that I use. A tablespoon of fresh dill or a teaspoon of dried. Dill is something that I don't usually buy. Usually I have some basil and some cilantro and parsley on hand. And my dream is to have an herb garden where I can just go pick things fresh. And I'm kind of a black thumb, so that hasn't worked out for me. But I happened to find some really nice dill at the international market close by. And I've started making my own vegetable broth. So if I have a little bit extra on hand after I make my dressings, then later in the week I can just throw that in so I'm not wasting. So I add some fresh. So often I just use dried, a teaspoon of dried, and that's perfectly fine. 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. And juice from 1/2 of a lemon. So it has the acidity from the lemon and it has the fat from the avocado. No sweet. And to me, that's perfectly fine. So throw my lemon in there, and then I'll blend. Turn this a little bit. You can see over in my corner over here. So once you blend it, you can check for consistency. And to me, it looks a little bit thick. So I'm just going to add a little bit more water. And so that's kind of the difference between a dressing and a guacamole, is that you make it so that it pours easily. Nice. So you can pick your own consistency. And then I just scoop it out into a container that I can cover. So I have these nice glass jars that have lids, or you can use a mason jar to store your dressing. So the dill makes this really special because it just makes it a little bit different and unique than, say, a guacamole that you might find traditionally. So get all of that out. I don't want to waste any. So avocados are super high in fat, but it's monounsaturated fat, so it's the good fat. I don't know if you've seen the cartoon around that has a male avocado calling after a female saying, hey, but I said you're the good kind of fat. Well, avocados are the good kind of fat. And a recent study has shown that if you eat half of an avocado with your lunch, you're less likely to be hungry later in the day. And so it can help if you're looking to lose some weight. Of course, more studies need to be done on that, but that's a really positive finding. So adding some avocado dressing to your salad at lunchtime can help keep you satisfied for the rest of the day. So I encourage you to try that out. I don't know if you know the trick for cleaning a blender. I'm gonna make another dressing here, so I do need to clean my blender. You fill it about halfway full with a drop of your dishwashing liquid. Because a lot of people don't like to use their blenders because it's such a hassle to clean. So I put in some water and the dishwashing liquid, and then I'll process again, and that'll clean my jar for me. Then all I have to do is rinse or give it a little wipe if I missed the spot. And good to go. Super easy, yeah? All right, turn this just a little bit back over here. So that's the avocado dressing. My daughter, the one thing that she doesn't like to eat is avocado, but she loves this dressing. So I think for a lot of people, it's a texture thing. So even if you don't like avocados, give it a try. Next recipe is a raw ranch dressing. And this one is adapted from the Rawtarian. And that's one of the biggest vegan raw food blogs out there. But again, this recipe in its original form did call for the sweetener. But if you think about ranch dressing, lots of times maybe you're giving it to kids with carrot sticks or something like that, a sweeter vegetable. Or maybe you have red peppers in your salad. You can get the sweetness from the vegetables and you don't need to add it extra, especially if you've been weaning off sugar and your taste buds aren't used to having it all the time anyway. So again, this one is going to go in the blender jar. And I have 1.25 cups of raw cashews. Raw cashews can be hard to find, so You usually have to go to a specialty grocery store to find them. I just order them on Amazon in bulk. I get a big bag and keep it in my freezer, so then I have it on hand for all the yummy things. 3/4 cup water. So again, you start with that, and then you can add more water if you need to. 3 tablespoons lemon juice. So I just estimate that to be 1.5 small lemons. So just give those a squeeze. You can measure if you want to. Dump that in. Everything just goes in the blender jar. 1/4 cup apple cider vinegar. And 1/3 of a cup extra virgin olive oil. Didn't measure that one out ahead of time, but we can just do that real quick. So again, you have the fat with the oil and in the cashews, but you actually get some sweetness with the cashews themselves and with the apple cider vinegar. I found that out with Leslie's ketchup recipe, that really the vinegar added a lot of sweetness. 2 cloves garlic. So again, I'll just chop the ends off and peel the paper. Maybe someday I'll be a super great smasher. So this recipe actually has some protein in it. It has some iron, B6, and vitamins E and K. So not only do you have all the good stuff that you're getting in your veggies, but you can add some nutrition in with your salad dressing. So 3 teaspoons onion powder. And again, a tablespoon of the dill, or a teaspoon of dried, just depends on what you have on hand, and a teaspoon of sea salt. Throw all that in the blender jar and process that. I usually make sure to process that on high to make sure that the nuts get really ground up nicely. Again, I stick that in a container. The thing about this one is it starts off fairly liquidy, nice for a salad dressing, but once it sits in the fridge for a little bit, it starts to thicken up. So then you can add a little bit more liquid if you want it more of a dressing consistency, or it thickens up really nicely for dipping, which makes a fantastic after school snack or afternoon pick-me-up for you. All right, so that is the raw creamy ranch dressing. So it was a hit in my house. Hope you guys like it too. So it's a really nice option if you're avoiding dairy. I have a nice recipe on Independent that is a made-over ranch dip made with Greek yogurt, so you can check that out too if you're interested in something a little bit more traditional using the dairy instead of the cashews. This last one is vinaigrette. that it's based on a recipe that Joy came up with, and Joy is our IT director. But I wanted to use ingredients that I had on hand, so I revised it a little bit. And it's actually the dressing that goes on my raw kale salad that has some nuts and some lentils, and that's also on the independent website. But this dressing goes really nicely with any salad you might like to have. So it starts with 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard. So I just add this. This one doesn't go in the blender, so this is just one that you can whisk. 3 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar actually has an anti-glycemic effect, so it can help control your blood sugar a little bit. And they're researching, trying to see if this is something that can actually help you lose weight. But in any case, it still adds a nice sweetness to your dressing. 2 teaspoons of soy sauce. So some people want to avoid soy or the wheat that's in the soy sauce, so then you could use something like the coconut aminos. But it's actually really nice. It does contain some antioxidants, and it adds a salty flavor without as much sodium. So if you're looking to cut down on your salt a little bit, then you might sub out a little bit of the soy sauce instead. So this time I'm going to press some garlic, so 1 clove garlic. Use a press for that. A teaspoon of sea salt. So there is still some salt in here. Some black pepper. I never measure my black pepper, just use a few turns, freshly ground. So whisk that up with a fork just to get everything combined. And then I slowly whisk in the olive oil, and I'm just using a fork. I used to have a nice little whisk, and it rusted, and I haven't replaced it, so a fork does just fine. And that's it. So now in just a few minutes, I made 3 dressings. Normally I wouldn't make that many all at once. Make one at a time, keep it in the fridge. They're good for 4 or 5 days in the fridge. And even the avocado dressing has the lemon in there, and so it'll keep. So this is just a really nice way to cut out some of the sugar that comes in some of the packaged ingredients. So I encourage you to try them out without the sweeteners. If you find that you are still in a place where you need to add a little bit, then try some raw honey, just a little bit at a time, whisk it in until it's to your desired taste. But eventually you can start cutting that out regardless of what all the food theory says. You really don't need to have it. And then if you wanted to treat yourself with a little something later, then you could have a real treat instead of having all of these hidden sugars and sweeteners in your food. So try them out. I hope you enjoy, and be sure to let me know if you have any questions about reducing sugar in your diet or about making your own salad dressings. So see you next time. Thanks.